Alright, everybody. Man, this is gonna be a fun one. You guys love when I talk about the manosphere, incels, and gooners, and we're talking about all of that today. I've got a video here you guys have been recommending I cover called We Gonna Be All, or by a channel called We Gonna Be Alright, and the video is called How the Manosphere Gets a Rise Out of Gooners. Now, I don't know if this is by a conservative YouTuber. I have a feeling they're more left-leaning because they're criticizing or I guess like analyzing the incel movement. But it also might be like a nofap video. I actually can't tell whether the video is going to be based or not. So this is going to be us watching the video, trying to figure that out in real time. So let's go ahead and take a look. People have been asking me to watch this. You guys love it when I cover incel stuff, so let's see what this is all about. Let's check in on how the manosphere has been lately as well. I actually don't know what the state of all that has been as of late. I haven't checked in a little while.
All right, kids. Adolescence is a TV show currently on Netflix about a 13-year-old who is accused of murdering a classmate, which leaves his family, his therapist, and the detective in charge all asking, what really happened? Netflix revealed that Adolescence had broken records for a limited series, with 66.3 million views after 2 weeks. And it was recently in the news because a right-winger claimed that the plot of the show was based on a true story from a real-life homicide involving a black kid. Like, they race-swapped the actual killer from a black man/migrant to a white boy. Wow. So, this man.
So, it was Ian Miles Chong who said, Netflix has a show called Adolescence that's about a British knife killer who stabbed a girl to death on a bus, and it's based on real-life cases such as the Southport murderer. So guess what? They race-swapped the actual killer from a black man/migrant to a white boy, and the story has it so he was radicalized online by the Red Pill movement. Just the absolute state of anti-white propaganda.
Black man/migrant to a white boy. Wow. So this man, who cried anti-white propaganda, didn't or couldn't recognize that adolescence is supposed to be about the manosphere, believe it or not. Looking like an old chewed-up sugar daddy that fell on the floor and got hair stuck on it.
True. True. Ian Miles Chong might be the crustiest man on Twitter. And that's saying a lot. Like, hold on. Let me just let you guys have an unadulterated view. Crustiest man on Twitter. Genuinely. Also, he swatted a guy once, I believe, and got like a dog flashbanged to death or something. I forget all the details, but it was like a whole... It was like a whole thing. Allegedly, I guess, but I don't know how litigious he is.
According to Variety, producer Hannah Walter said that alongside receiving lots of messages from parents worried about the dangers of incel culture and toxic masculinity online, she had many from teenagers. With that said, and while I'm not going to focus on Adolescence the show, haven't seen it, I hope someone checked Jamie Miller's search history because if he's into adult entertainment, he might be gooning.
What are the effects of porn on your mind? It causes you to be antisocial, it causes you to be bad at eye contact, and it teaches you to objectify women, which teaches you to hate women. When you objectify women, you feel entitled to them. But because you're all weird and antisocial from watching all that porn, you get no bitches. This is how the pipeline begins. Because you get no bitches, you look up how to get bitches. Who capitalizes on the how to get bitches market? That's right. Right-wing conservative podcasts.
That's comedian Demetrius Fields talking about today's topic.
It's actually crazy how, like, the falling out of the incel stuff almost always leads to nofap, like, weird... like pro-celibacy arcs for a lot of these people. Like, they'll fall out of MGTOW and red pill stuff, but then they'll become like anti-porn or anti-sex, and they'll go nofap. It's like another phase of the incel process, but it's like the recovery phase. It's hard to describe. It seems like a lot of ex-incels go nofap.
Gooners. Now, you cannot search gooners on TikTok. And if you do on Twitter, well, you might become one. A gooner is defined a few ways. This time last year, thanks to Anne Hathaway, the phrase kind of trended after an ex-post from the British news outlet The Guardian labeled her as a secret gooner. In that case, it meant an Arsenal Football Club fan. On Urban Dictionary, it's
Oh.
one who is completely and miserably addicted to porn but embraces and loves it. A recent survey from Common Sense Media found that, on average, kids in America are first discovering pornography online at age 12. The report also confirms that the majority of teen respondents, ages 13 to 17, have watched pornography online. And some have seen it by age 10 or younger. Some find it by accident, others were looking for it and watch intentionally. Yet, incels and groypers in general, and gooners specifically, seem to hate, better yet, fear girls and women. And they resent the ladies they pay to watch. I could easily make this episode about violence, but it's the precursors. All over the internet, there's telltale signs bubbling under the creaky floorboards that aren't squeaking due to onomatopoeia. If you know what I mean. The rise of the gooners will be live streamed.
Yeah, I've seen a bit of this where, like, the gooners are really brazen in the kind of stuff they'll post online. There's a post that stuck with me where this, like, gooner account talked about how after having sex with a woman, he feels an impulse of violence towards the woman. It was the most unhinged thing I'd ever read, and all these women were, like, quote tweeting it like, guys don't feel this, right? Like, because the way the guy worded it was like, every man feels the barely, like, containable urge to murder the woman that he's just had sex with afterwards, after the sheer feeling of disgust you feel after achieving post-nut clarity. Basically trying to argue post-nut clarity makes every man want to kill the woman he's had sex with out of disgust, but they don't because of self-control, was the argument he was making. And so you had all these women replying, like, is this true? Basically, like, actually kind of believing that this is how men think, because the way this guy worded it was, like, kind of, like, it came off like he was letting men's darkest secret out or something. Like, that post stuck with me as, like, wow, there are some unhinged, mentally ill gooners out there. And what I hope people don't do too much of is seeing gooners and assume, like, oh, gooning must make you mentally ill. And I hope people realize that most mentally ill people, or not most, but a lot of mentally ill people also display another category of mental illness, which is sexual overactivity. And that can oftentimes manifest as being a gooner online, right? So that's probably why you see a lot of unhinged gooners online. Poor mental health can lead to, like, hypersexuality. And, that's not always bad, but it can be. It can be.
The revolution will be on social media. One misogynist tweet and Reddit post at a time. Like some man on Twitter claiming that Rachel Zegler of Snow White, having back hair, I guess, is the reason why Disney's losing money on the movie. Who's to blame for this?
The quote tweet, so many men have clearly never seen a woman up close in their whole lives. It's so real. But, like, for a lot of these dudes, they either have never been with a woman, or the only women they've been with are, like, who meet their standards. A lot of these guys that are big in this space, that actually have followings, have enough money and clout to actually, like, be picky about who they'll spend their time on. So they will go out and they will, like, set these insane standards for what is and isn't a beautiful woman. Not just because, like, they're salty they can't get laid, but a lot of these guys, they have so much going for them because they're large public figures that make these tweets, that they can be this picky. They can be this judgmental of people's appearance and be like, oh, fine hairs on a woman's body? Ew. They gotta be laser hair removal every single inch of their body below their forehead. It's like there are a lot of dudes who have that standard. And those are the dudes who tweet this shit.
Is there blood on the hands of the right wing? Are their palms too hairy to tell? Does this have anything to do with toxic masculinity? Women telling men that they don't need them and are useless. As you're about to see, Middle America says it's media and messaging. They might want to look in the mirror. Let's get started.
Bro, 40 million? She making more than NBA players, bro. Why are y'all gooning so much? Stop it. You know you can get free shit, right? You know there's free shit that you can goon to. I'm not saying that you should be gooning because you should be trying to get off that shit pronto. You should not be fucking stroking your chicken, but 40 mil? Bro, there's free shit. If you're really that addicted, there's free shit out there. Why y'all paying $40 million? Oh my...
Oh yeah.
Is that how much, like, per year an OnlyFans creator was making? I assume it's got to be like millions of people cumulatively contributing that much money. It's not like 1,000 people spent that much money combined, right? It's like, this is like saying a streamer made like 10 million over the course of their career, and it's like people gave this guy $10 million, and it's like, well, more like millions of people gave that guy like $5, you know? Like, that's typically how it goes. So I don't. You're gonna see a lot more of that as well. The manosphere, like, anti-sex work stuff, because you've got the people who will argue porn and sex work is bad because it dehumanizes and objectifies women, and then you've got the guys who say porn and sex work is bad because in its current state it has given women more autonomy, power, and control than ever, which is, both those things can be true. But the incels fall on either side of that. You've got like the more like pretend to care about women incels that are like super no porn and they do the whole objectification bent. Then you've got the incels who are like, OnlyFans gives women the ability to reclaim their sexuality and their bodies and to profit from it, and I don't like that.
Another definition for gooner. In a video entitled Sophie Rain Robbed Desperate Men of $43 Million, this one, not this one, surprised me. I thought this kid's rant would place the onus on women taking advantage of men rather than men taking money out of their own pockets for donkeys on demand. Good job, homie. Anyway, Sophie Rain, if that's her real name, is a 20-year-old, if that's her real age, OnlyFans creator who has reportedly made $68 million total since she began her career on the adult subscription service. She has stated that her motivation was to move out of her parents' place, and she saw her sister using OnlyFans to make money, so she decided to give it a try. What's more interesting is, 1, Sophie was working as a waitress before creating content on OnlyFans. 2, she's a Christian who attends church when she can. And 3, she maintains that she's a virgin. So, when someone asks, is Sophie Rain actually a virgin, or is it all marketing? Then another says, if it's true, then she's a keeper. That per the New York Post. There you have purity being seen as a P-orn selling point, and chastity being deemed a desirable quality by people who want to have sex with her, or watch her have sex. Hey, let's see if a male...
So, a lot of guys, they see women and objectify them in a very weird way. A lot of guys, whether they see, like there's sort of a spectrum to it. They will see a woman being sexually active as gross for a variety of reasons. Either A, it's pure jealousy that it's not with them, and that's it. And it can be multiple of these, by the way, but it'll be pure jealousy because it's a woman not having sex with them. It will be disgust at the idea of a woman's body having already been, let's call it, explored by another man, right? Like that, they kind of consider it like sloppy seconds or like, I don't know, like using a used pair of shoes or something. They use a lot of dehumanizing, objectifying analogies to describe how they feel about it. And then you've got the dudes who consider there to be some kind of like magical essence to virginity, and that losing that is a really severe thing. And the final thing that I've noticed, and this is the most common one that I see with a lot of guys, is the idea that a woman who's had any, or particularly the standard is like some arbitrary line that they consider a lot of sexual partners, they consider that person to have been intimate with too many people for their intimacy with them to matter. And so for a lot of guys, the idea of women who have a lot of sexual experience is seen as either gross, or we'll just narrow it down or broaden it to they see it as gross for a variety of different reasons, or those multiple reasons. And I'm not saying those reasons are good, but being a guy who has hung out with a lot of guys before, that's what you hear a lot of. And by far the most common one is a sense of like, a woman can't truly feel intimate with you if she's been intimate with a lot of other guys, because at that point it's like, I guess they've just had too much experience, right? A lot of these guys kind of fetishize the idea of being with a woman who's not had enough experience to judge and compare them to other men. A lot of men probably have a massive ego thing around like every little thing that a woman could be silently judging them for, comparing them to other sexual partners for, right? Like, everything from the size of their dick to how well they fuck to what their body looks like. You know, it's like the more partners they have, how many dudes are they being compared to that they don't know about? There's also that. So you've got an element of insecurity to it as well. So for those reasons, a lot of guys, it's not just that virginity is seen as a valued thing. It's more that they're so averse to a lack of virginity or a lack of near virginity, quote unquote. And remember, virginity is just a made-up concept. The standard of what is and isn't a virgin has changed a lot, by the way. Like, there's been a lot of different, like, arbitrary lines for where virginity begins and ends. It's a made-up concept. But nonetheless, for what we consider virginity to be today, from what I've seen in most guys, it's less that virginity is desired and more that virginity is closer to the end of the spectrum they would rather have their ideal partner be on in terms of sexual experience, rather than closer to the highly experienced end. And there are a lot of variety of reasons why guys will give for that. Some very crude and objectifying, some highly focused on themselves and their perception and their insecurities. And yeah, that's just generally been the observations I've made.
OnlyFans content creator's experience is similar to his female counterparts.
I went full-time a year ago, so it's been a pretty big year. I've like traveled to the States a few times to shoot content with some big names. Like I make videos. It's been really fun.
Do you ever get judgment from peers, and how do you overcome that? Or are you just like, I don't care?
No, I'm pretty lucky as a man. Not many people judge you for being a sucker. Like I got a lot of female friends who have like been cut off from their family and things like that. As a man, like it's just handshakes and high fives from everyone.
Right. High fives.
Just
all around.
handshakes
Maybe
and
not to
high
the
fives.
Hand that was pounded on by his fist twice when he said, like I make videos. That he washes hands. And if by clapping, you know he didn't mean round of applause, then you're not the type whose only knowledge of positions is in analyzing how men pose next.
I liked how he was, you know, making some videos, pounding his fist like, yeah, you know, making some videos.
To women, who exactly made these? They're even judging the baby, but more on men checking out other men later. Look,
I forgot
it's no
about
surprise
that.
The most searched for stars on Pornhub are overwhelmingly women. And I can't imagine that gooners are encouraging one another to consider careers in adult entertainment just to get lucky. But peeping the
Man, I do not know a lot of porn stars. I have no idea who Angela White is. And apparently she's the most searched porn star on all of Pornhub. I don't know who Abella Danger is. I don't know who Violet Myers is. I've heard of Lana Rhodes. Never heard of Eva Elfie. Alex Adams I haven't heard of. Everyone knows Johnny Sins. He's a dude. He's like massively, like, he's like a meme. Because he does all the jobs, right? He's like been a firefighter, a paramedic, whatever. Yeah. Riley Reid, everyone knows. She's one of the meme porn stars. Lexi Luna, I've never heard of. Mia Malkova, I believe, streams on Twitch. I'm pretty sure Mia Malkova is a Twitch streamer and a porn star. Emily Willis, I don't know. Sarah Blonde, I don't know. Sky Bree, I don't know. Skylar Vox, I don't know. Brandy Love, I don't know. Natasha Nice, I don't know. Lena Paul, I don't know. Jessica Sodi, I don't know. Savannah Bond, I don't know. Lexi Lure, I don't know. Ray Lil Black, I don't know. Mariana Matrix, I don't know. Alina Angel, I don't know. Like, I don't know any of these other people. Damn. I must not be a gooner if I only recognize... How many of these people did I recognize? One, because I've heard this name. Everyone knows two. 3, 4. Yeah, I only recognize 4 of these people, and most of them is because of memes. Man, I'm not a gooner, I guess, guys. Shit, I didn't realize that I was not a gooner. Or at least by Pornhub standard, I'm not a gooner.
most searched for terms, I bet it's them choosing anime.
Wait, we have the most searched terms? Let's find out the most searched terms. Hentai. And then MILF. Guys, we need to pull this ahead, alright? We need to lock in against the weebs. The hentai heads must be defeated, alright? We are in the running up. We have to win. We have to pull ahead. You know what, tonight I'm gonna give my drop in the bucket in the war effort against hentai. I have no idea what this is. Pinay? What is that? Am I, like, outing myself as super, like, naive or something for not knowing what this is? What is Pinay? Is that, like... Is that a different language for penis? Pinay is Filipino. Filipino woman. Oh. An entire category, like, is dedicated to Filipino women? Okay. Lesbian, which had a drop by 1 point this year. Damn. People are falling off of the lesbian porn, it seems, but it's pretty up there. Anal is pretty up there, of course. Big tits is up. Big tit stock is going up, guys. Same goes for anime stock. Anime is going up as well, but we're also seeing an equal drop in searches for Japanese. Latina is down by 1 point. Damn, Trump. Asian up by 3. Stepmom down by 2, thankfully, so we've gotten a little less degenerate, it would seem. +3 on cream pie. -1 on threesome, so threesomes are getting less popular, would seem. +15 on animation. So I guess that's like hentai, right? Okay, so hentai is really, like, dominating the internet right now. Jesus Christ. Like, it looks like by far, if you look at these stats, people are watching a lot of hentai. And, like, animated porn is what people are watching. Wait, what? Big tits, big ass? Wait, are you telling me ass wins? Guys, according to Pornhub, big ass beats big tits. We got our answer. Massage is surprisingly high up on the list. That's pretty... I feel like that's got to be pretty vanilla, right? Cosplay, that's up by, like, what looks like 7 points based on what I can see sticking out. Ebony is down by 5 points. Very nice. Blowjob, we have no data. Trans, up by 5. You're telling me people are watching more trans porn than gangbang, BBC, wife 3D, POV, JOI, real amateur. I don't know what this is supposed to be. Smart? Like, I don't even... Like, that's all I get. Like, I assume this just says smart, right? Or what could this even be? What am I... Am I, like... Squirt! Ah, fuck. I knew it had to be something. I don't know why, but my brain was just thinking smart. BBW and teacher. Damn, teachers got some... Its stock is going up. Wife and teacher. Everyone's searching that shit this year. Damn. I don't know why we stun locked on this. I was just curious about the stats.
Animation and trans categories. During the GOP National Convention, by the way, there's this myth that came from Tinder statistics. Kind of not really, which suggests that most women are only choosing very few men. And it gets hard. Wait.
No, it wasn't Tinder. It was like, it was like Bumble or something like that. I forget. It was like one of those non-Tinder dating apps. One that you haven't, like, heard of in a million years. Basically, in the world of hookups, when people are basing whether or not they want to do a hookup on appearance, the fact is that roughly 90-something% of women swipe right on about 1% of guys. Like, if you're not in the top 1% of guys in terms of, like, see a picture of you, immediately think you're attractiveness, you're not getting anywhere on a dating app. And the data from those dating apps is the only data we really have about dating preferences and dating tendencies. Like, we don't have data on, like, if a average guy goes out and tries to ask as many women out on a date as possible, what are the chances that a girl says yes, right? Like, we don't have data on that because you couldn't actually perform that experiment properly. But what we do have data on is the rate at which women swipe right on guys compared to the amount guys swipe right on women. And we know that, like, pretty much almost 90% of guys right swipe on most women they see, like 70 to 80% of the women they see, while most women left swipe 95% 5+% of the guys they see. And it's only the 1%, like, most attractive, wealthy, and what they argue high sexual market value that get the right swipes. But these are hookup apps after all, right? Like, you're filtering for a user base that is very likely to left swipe you if you are not 100% perfect, because they can just find someone who is. Why not, you know? And so that's where a lot of this incel logic comes from, is the feeling that the tendencies you see on dating apps are actually just the unadulterated truth of what our real life dating world is really like. That, like, the dating app just unmuddies the water and lets you see a data collected and organized, factual, numbers-based analysis of how women see men. And a lot of these incels say, okay, so most women, like, just want Chad based on that data. And that's where the whole conspiracy really comes from.
Dating, finding a match, on apps in particular. You will likely recognize that gooners and incels will not blame other men for taking all the sex and the perceived stiff competition.
The 80-20 theory is the theory that 80% of women are attracted to only 20% of men. Why
There
this
it
is
is,
harmful
yep.
is that guys that feed into this online feel like they're owed something. It's going to make them feel ashamed, and that can lead to them feeling disdain or even hatred towards women.
It's all about a victim complex. It's all about being able to say, look what feminism is pushing for. Look how much feminism demonizes men. Meanwhile, look at the dating statistics and everything. And it's like, they want to be able to say, feminists are wrong for hating men because women have been given that impression of men because they won't give good men the time of day, because they want Chad. That is what they want to be able to say. They want to be able to say, you hate men because you're victimized by bad men, and it's your fault you're victimized by bad men because you date them instead of the virgin me. And they get this feeling of simultaneous, like, victim blaming, like putting down women that makes them feel better, I'm sure, while on top of that getting to feel like such a victim, but not just a victim, but one who's like, had they not been victimized, quote unquote, the person who victimized them would have had a better outcome. So they get to feel a mix of, like, self-victimization, where they get to, like, play the victim and feel super, like, sorry for themselves, but they also get to feel just vindication, like a sense of justice around like against the woman who dared not to have feelings for them or whatever.
So is it all true? When guys are thinking about that 20%, they're probably thinking of guys who are really rich and cut and good looking. Research shows that women are actually looking for intelligence and emotional stability, more so than those other things. And what men are looking for tends to be more around attractiveness and sexual desirability, more so than women.
The manosphere is holding this online dating rule against women rather than other men. This idea is actually a misinterpretation of something called the Pareto principle, which says that 80% of consequences come from 20% of causes. For example, 80% of the wealth is owned by 20% of the population. Has to be worse by now. This 80-20 thing came up in Adolescence, when a character explains to his father, whose dad is a police officer, 80% of women are attracted to 20% of men. Women, you must trick them because you'll never get them in a normal way. Responding to this 80-20 rule, while debunking it,
this is where a lot of, like, men dating advice comes from, is the presupposition of ideas like this, that, like, most women don't, like, you statistically, you're not the kind of guy that most women will want to date. So you have to develop things about yourself that will make you attractive, because you're probably not the 1% of guys statistically. And so you need to, like, make money, get to be really funny, and go to the gym. Like, a lot of guys do all these things because they believe without increasing what they call their sexual market value, they won't be close enough to that top 20, top 10, top 1% of men that can actually compete in the dating market. A lot of these dudes put massive amounts of pressure on themselves, and I mean this from a young age, by the way, because, like, a lot of these dudes are like Gen Zers who are growing up basically online. So this is the culture, and these are the stats they're hearing from the age of, like, 13, 14, all the way up to their adulthood.
Relationship coach is quoted by Cosmopolitan as saying, look around you. You don't just see women dating models. And yeah, I was going to say proof is in those around you, but there's a male loneliness epidemic for incels, described in the study as a ragtag collection of young males who have rallied around their shared experience of romantic rejection. Results from this study indicate that incels self-reported having a higher degree of social and emotional loneliness and lower levels of social support from friends and family. Incels also engaged in more negative coping strategies such as behavioral disengagement and self-blame. This social and emotional loneliness among boys and men manifests itself into gooning, which in turn leads to objectifying women and getting angry when they reject you or aren't hot enough for you.
And I get a lot of comments from men that are saying things like, well, I could still beat you up. Or the average man could still you, right? They have denser bones and stronger muscles. They may not be bigger than you, but they can still you, right? A lot of those comments. And then I talk about trans women in sports and how I think they belong in women's sports. I don't think you guys are actually concerned about our safety when you're constantly in my comments threatening me. I just don't think you care that much. So it's almost like the common thread here is that you guys just fantasize about violence against women. Just an observation.
Let me get this straight.
To be very clear, as much as we're doing like the deep psychoanalysis of a lot of these young men, keep in mind, evil exists. Whenever I hear someone say there are no bad people, there are no evil people, I just kind of cringe. Because, like, man, I grew up on the internet. I grew up getting shown some of the most horrific shit ever by my friends online, you know? Like, I was about, like, 12 or 11 when I saw 3 Guys, 1 Hammer, which is one of those early internet gross out videos. But unlike 1 Man, 1 Jar or 2 Girls, 1 Cup, where it's purely gross out and there's not really, like, no one's getting that hurt. 1 Man, 1 Jar, someone got pretty hurt, but it's not, you know, he lived. 3 Guys, 1 Hammer is a snuff film of 2 notorious Russian, I believe Russian, no, they were Ukrainian serial killer teens beating an old man to death with a hammer in the woods. Just recorded it, posted it online. This was a huge, like, you can look this up, massively notorious serial killer duo. And they recorded it and put it online, and the video is still out there. I saw this when I was like 11, and I was like, so evil is real. Like, fully it exists. Like, evil is real, and there are people out there that are pure evil to the core. And so when I hear that evil isn't real, I just kind of roll my eyes. To be very clear, we're psychoanalyzing a lot of young men here who believe awful things for, I wouldn't say good or justifiable reasons, but for reasons. Reasons that we can analyze, not make apologetics for, to be clear, but analyze and understand, because if we understand how these men get to this point, we can prevent it. We can argue against the beliefs that they hold, that they don't necessarily admit they hold. And so, I'm not talking about the pure evil men who are just in it to hurt women. There are men out there who have, paraphilias in their brain where they sexually get off on hurting women, and that's all they get off on. You know, like, there are people out there that are just broken, evil to the core, and they just fantasize about hurting women. They hate women. They're predators, and that's it through and through. Those aren't the people we're talking about here. The incel community, the manosphere community will always be filled with those, like, barely human degenerates. But we're here talking about the majority of these groups, which are sadly misled young men who are lonely and insecure, and there are very well-developed propaganda measures that have been taken to indoctrinate these young men. They didn't just do this to themselves.
Men and boys tune into a fitness influencer's TikTok, whether or not it showed up on their For You pages, feel intimidated by how big, strong, and independent she is, which, in turn, doesn't make them want to goon, 2 of the 3 definitions I mentioned earlier. Then threaten her with violence when they could learn a thing or 3 about something that could provide them with physical and mental health benefits. So it's like, you can't beat it or join them. I mean, not like...
One of the 2 killers from that video is out of jail, married, and has kids. Listen, man, all I'm going to say is, he's the only Ukrainian I hope the Russians get. All right? Dude, that video, I don't care, like, if they serve their time or not. They're evil. That dude is evil. I don't think, like, I'm in favor of rehabilitative justice, but, like, that guy should have been put to death. That guy should have been put to death. Just saying. That's my opinion.
Like, beat your you-know-what, beat her. Only not domestic violence, E. And to be clear, the likes of Taylor Swift can get it too. Not in that way. Incels can't stand her. But women really can't win. They're either too thin or too fat for too many. All of this threatens masculinity. A study published in the journal Social Psychology explored what happens when men feel their masculinity is under threat. The author stated that men's power over women is a big part of men's masculinity, and threats to masculinity led to greater public discomfort, anger, and ideological dominance among those studied. That anger, worded better than me by Media Matters, predicted greater endorsement of ideologies that implicitly promote men's power over women. Men need a hug, a role model, or something. Therapy. Close friendships and social structure would help. As we proceed, and with the right getting manliness and masculinity wrong, going against psychologists, it becomes incumbent upon the left to step in and support. But this ain't it. If progressives want to win back young men, then they must talk to them and address their needs, instead of constant scolding. All the finger wagging just drives them to Rogan, Peterson, and
So when we're having these conversations psychoanalyzing the incel movement, I think it's fine to call out things like insecurity. But one thing I'll tell you is that any man who's told that his opinions about women are from insecurity is just going to double down on inceldom harder. You cannot attack the masculinity and ego of a guy on the right and expect them not to turtle up and double down harder. If we're trying to actually de-radicalize these young men, sadly you're going to have to give credence to ideas that sound ridiculous to you, especially if you're a woman, right? Like the idea of having to not laugh in the face of a guy saying it's so hard to be a guy because not as many women like you as guys like most women. It just sounds like a joke, but there is a very hard to understand divide in experience between men and women that I think has created this. I've brought this point up a lot. When a woman leaves her house, probably her biggest fear is getting sexually assaulted, attacked, and hurt physically. That is most men's biggest fear, or a women's biggest fear when they leave the house. Most men's biggest fear in that respect, if you ask them, I think would probably be being falsely accused of such. Think about that for a minute and how different of an experience that is. For the average woman, the fear that man has is ridiculous and insane. But for that man, it is their biggest fear. A lot of men's biggest fear. Look online these days. Anytime any conversation about Me Too happens, they're always talking about how afraid they are of getting falsely accused, how they know someone it happened to, or even it happened to them, right? And to be fair, false accusations happen. And when they do happen, they get so much media attention that of course everybody is going to know about these situations, and they're going to be afraid of it happening to them too, no matter how rare it is. Meanwhile, women are way more likely to experience the predation that they're afraid of. But for men, they hear women talk about it, they think they're overreacting. The 1 in 4 women thing, they're like, 1 in 4, no way it's 1 in 4 women. No way. That's insane. That's got to be an exaggerated number. And meanwhile, they're just as afraid of being falsely accused despite the unlikeliness of it. There's a clear misunderstanding and experience, right? I think one of the best examples of how this bears out in the average psychology of a man versus the average psychology of a woman is when you compliment a woman's appearance as a male stranger, you probably terrify the woman in question. They're probably not too thrilled that you did that. If a random stranger who's a woman compliments the appearance of a guy, I assure you the posts from dudes talking about how when they were 12 or 13 or something, a girl complimented them unwarranted, and it sticks with them even in their darkest moment to this day, and they're 40 or something. It's that's real. Guys get so few comments complimenting their appearance or indicating that women they don't know look at them as an attractive man, that it becomes a ridiculous novelty to ever have that complimented about you. And on the other end, women could not be less tired of it. Women could not be less tired of comments about their appearance. I will say though, If you're going to comment a woman's appearance as a guy and you don't want it to come off as creepy, comment about something specific and not weird to comment on. Usually hair is the best one to go for. Like, I love the way you styled your hair. It looks amazing. Like, that's usually what I'll go for. And that's my riz right there. Regardless, though, like, generally, though, women don't want to have their appearance commented on unless you're, like, specifically commenting how they did something. Like, I like the way you did your makeup, or I like the way you did your hair. Like, that's one thing. But for most women, they've been, like, getting inappropriate, unsolicited comments about their bodies and their appearance since, in many cases, they were, like, 10, 11, 12, right? Like, from adult men, they've been getting these comments since they were kids in many cases. So, from the woman's POV, getting a compliment unsolicited is like the start of a potential horror movie plot line, right? And for men, it is like the moment that keeps them going in their darkest hour. That is the level of psychological difference men and women have around something as simple as an unexpected compliment about your appearance. And so men are in this position of being starved for validation around your appearance. Like, I've got a fair amount of, I imagine, particularly like cis women in chat, right? Like, I imagine a fair amount of cis women in chat like to post on social media, maybe. Like, they post, like, if they think they look attractive, they'll post a picture on social media, and they hope they get a few comments about their appearance that are complimentary, right? I do think women like to be seen as attractive and like to get compliments about it, depending on the scenario. Men like to as well. So, in this case, the lack of it ends up being sort of a starving factor, while women are downright drowning in it, you know?
And the Tate brothers, and they do talk to young men. However, Andrew Tate don't like average guys either.
Your lives are shit. If I was forced to endure a year of your life, it would be the worst level of depression imaginable. Your life proves you to be a peasant or slave. All of you are lazy, weak, and stupid. You are poor, uninteresting, and weak compared to me. There is no progressive voice who is as dismissive of men's problems as the Tates. No one as disgusted by the average man, or so gleefully enthusiastic in their...
I think that, I think a lot of people underestimate how many men feel motivated by... All right. Let me describe a scenario to you, all right? Average man sitting on a bench, and a scrawny, neckbeard loser, like, smells like alcohol, looks like they're probably homeless, walks up, starts insulting the guy on the bench, who has, like, a pretty normal life, calling him a loser, saying he'll never amount to anything, yada yada. That person's not going to take the words that random guy is saying very seriously, right? But let's say they're sitting on the bench, and a ripped, jacked, multi-millionaire ex-boxer comes up, smoking a cigar. They pull up in one of their dozens of supercars. They've got a harem of women, many of them models and professional sex workers, and he tells you you're a fucking loser, and you're lazy, you're not hustling enough, and if you were more like him, your life would mean something. If you're a young guy, or you're like a guy in your early 20s dealing with the state of America, the economy, and being like Gen Z in this market, and you see this immensely successful guy downright like bullying you for not being as successful as him, and he tells you in his bullying how you can be so, which is to follow him, support him, and to do what, like, be a servant of, not a servant, a disciple of his, he's going to attract a lot of men. Men are, funnily enough, the reason why so many men believe the alpha male, beta male thing is because they think that way. Most men see themselves as an alpha until a more alpha man comes along, and then they become the beta. That's almost always the situation for a lot of these guys, where they actively will look to a guy they see as stronger, with more authority, who's smarter, or knows what to do better, or can just outright exert their will, or just speak more with more conviction than they can, and they will naturally follow. A lot of men will naturally follow a man they perceive as stronger. And Andrew Tate does everything that particularly young, inexperienced at life men see as strong. And so it's like if they were in a prison or just anywhere really, and they saw a really strong guy come out and basically put them down, alpha them down, of course they're going to follow. They're betas. That's why they believe in the alpha beta philosophy, because they internally realize they're betas following their alpha. That's how they think. And they ascribe that mindset to everyone else.
Ridiculing of us.
It's here where I'll bring up toxic masculinity. Now, I shouldn't have to say this, but toxic masculinity refers to one.
Incels started going down the Sigma male. Okay, Sigma was always a meme. Let's be honest. Sigma was never serious, even among incels. It was like a way of describing, like, being super, trying to lean into like the idea of being mysterious or whatever. But it was pretty much always a meme. They basically it's always still, to this day, alpha and beta male, right? Like, if you're Sigma, you're basically just a special type of alpha male, right? That's the incel mindset, is there are alpha males who lead and are strong and attractive and whatever, successful, and there are betas who follow those men, right? That's what they do. And that's why they think everyone else does it too.
One kind of masculinity, not masculinity in and of itself. There are many forms, countless. If I told you blueberries were rotten, you wouldn't think I meant all berries. Oops. And from not getting any, I'm sure incels would know that I'm referring to fruity little blue balls. Me making fun of incels and gooners isn't helping. In January of 2019, for the first time ever, the American Psychological Association released guidelines to help psychologists work with men and boys. The big takeaway was, and is, that traditional masculinity marked by stoicism, competitiveness, dominance, and aggression is, overall, harmful. Men socialized in this way are less likely to engage in healthy behaviors. What's telling is that the APA came out with specialized tools and guidelines for psychologists to work with girls and women in 2007, and they had no problem with it whatsoever. See, men commit 90% of homicides in the United States and represent 77% of homicide victims. They're the demographic group most at risk of being victimized by violent crime. They are 3.5 times more likely than women to die by suicide, and their life expectancy is 4.5 years shorter than women's.
You should keep in mind, though, by the way, life expectancy, those stats do not mean the life expectancy. It doesn't mean what it sounds like. Life expectancy is actually an average of the longest lived and shortest lived of that data of the gender whose data has been gathered for. And because men are a lot more men than women are more likely to die young due to situations like this, you see stats like men are less like live this much longer, like 65 compared to like 80 something, right? And that's not really accurate. Like, for men, it's similar to like child mortality, where like back in like the medieval times, it's not that like you could die of tuberculosis at 12 and that happened to everybody. It was more like 90% of babies did not survive childbirth, but if you made it to 1, you could almost certainly make it to 50, 60, 70. Like, plenty of humans did. And so the reason why humans had such short lifespans or life expectancies in the old days was just because so many babies died. During childbirth. And if you made it through childbirth, the hardest part, you almost certainly could make it to like your late old age, right? So keep in mind, plenty of men, statistically, are living to 80, 90, 100 years old, right? But so many men die in their 20s, 30s, and 40s to dumb bullshit, they weigh down the stats and make it look like men have shorter lifespans than women on average, which is not the case. I just thought I'd throw that fun fact in there, because I read all about that and was like, huh. And people use that term to, like, imply that women literally have a longer lifespan than men on average, or like a median longer lifespan than men.
If anybody's hurting masculinity, it's men who believe there's one narrow way to be masculine, and they just so happen to be it.
I have rules for men. They're just funny. They're not that serious. Like, you don't eat soup in public. You don't cross your legs. And you don't drink from a straw. And one of the reasons you don't drink from a straw is because the way your lips purse. It's very effeminate. And his excuse was, well, I was drinking a milkshake. Again, you shouldn't be drinking a milkshake. Milkshakes are for kids.
That's Fox News' Jesse Waters admitting that he has been...
Like, this is how they think. And keep in mind, there's that one clip of, what's his name? The guy who pisses in cups on his show, Gavin McInnes, the founder of the Proud Boys. his big rant about how video games are for children when Gamergate happened. That's why he didn't like engage with it. He got nuked for it. But like a lot of these old school conservatives, they are as anti-fun as it gets. If these people continue to have their way, funnily enough, a lot of the things these Gen Z guys love will be taken from them. That's kind of the hilarious irony of this whole culture war.
I've been analyzing how another man's lips could be pleasing and acceptable to him under certain conditions. He's got a kink, no shame. But hey, according to Jesse, these rules are just funny, not serious. Like when Jesse Waters went on air and said that he let the air out of a woman's tires that he was trying to date. She couldn't go anywhere. She needed a lift. I said, hey, you need a lift? She hopped right in the car. Jesse had to address the story later and correct the record. The thing is, though, he cheated on...
He literally, like, had to walk back talking about setting up a woman and like, coercing her into a trap to be in a space with him so he could make a move on her. Let the air out of her tires so he'd have to give her a ride so he could make a move on her. Keep in mind, like, there's a reason why women are so, like, their biggest fear is being predated on by a man, because there are a lot of men like this, and a lot of women have gone through experiences where a guy they knew that they thought was kind of chill maybe does some creepy shit to them after like the 20th time they've met. In fact, it is statistically more likely that a woman is predated on sexually by a man she already knows and is familiar with and has some level of rapport and trust with. And this is a massive known thing among women. They're like, most women are very cautious about this. And for most men, they don't experience that fear, and they can't even empathize with that fear, sadly.
On his then wife with that woman that he later married.
The ice cream, you know my rule about men eating soup in public. I don't think it's manly to go like that with a soup and you're blowing on it. Just not a good look. I think the same thing.
Blowing on food doesn't cool it down.
Save that for vacation. A grown man, especially the president, should not be licking ice cream in public.
This grown man wants other men to adjust their behavior in public based on their surroundings. What's more manly?
That is literally half the reporting of America's largest news agency, by the way. Like back when Obama was president, they were freaking out about the color of his suits and what type of mustard he was ordering at restaurants. Literally, Dijon mustard gate happened.
Presenting yourself the way you want, when you want, regardless of the opinion of those around you, or refusing to have milkshakes, soup, and drinking from straws outside of the comfort of your own home, which Jesse definitely does.
He's literally doing it himself.
Don't wish other men happy birthday. What kind of husband goes grocery shopping with his wife?
Bad jokes or not, it's bad messaging from the network that calls leftists snowflakes, but would completely melt if having to apply this macho logic to conservative men. Here's a clip from Fox Decoded doing it for them.
And men just look at another man and you can kind of know if he's an athlete. Kind of look at the way he can go down the stairs or throw something, catch a lighter, just maneuver his body in that way. You look at...
But like, remember, none of these people like actually have like what they'll say, what they're saying is meant to be agreeable. People like to hear that fitness and strength is good. Like, hey guys, being fit and strong is good. Can we get a round of applause for being fit and strong and being athletic? Everybody claps for that. They're fishing for approval and claps. They just want to say true things no one disagrees with as much as possible, so that when it comes to a matter of partisan disagreement, people are more likely to think, oh, these Fox News people are reasonable. They talk about how strength and fitness is good, and you know, they'll talk about, they really, really love to appeal to this idea of common sense, which, as you might know, it is think about something for more than a second and figure out like whether or not it's a smart thing to believe or do or whatever it may be. Use your common sense. For the right, common sense is basically a tagline for go with what your gut tells you, go with your first assumption that makes you feel the best, refuse to hear any argument against the logic of that choice and of that belief, and argue it's just common sense, and that if you can just intuit that opinion and no amount of facts against it could possibly challenge it.
This guy, I've never even seen him throw a football. He goes to a game, doesn't throw a football. Never seen him hit a golf ball. I've never seen him really do anything.
He's talking about Biden, by the way.
I've seen Trump hit a tennis ball, hit a golf ball, throw a football, catch a baseball. I've seen him do all of that. So there's a lot of mystery around Walz. We don't really know if he's even a good shot. I mean, I know
Oh,
Trump
Tim
sons are
Walz.
good shots. They're better shots than some of the Secret Service agents.
When people call you a snowflake, just remember they're quoting Fight Club, a satire written by a gay man about how male fragility causes men to destroy themselves, resent society, and become radicalized. And don't forget, all that red pill stuff.
The funnest part about all of it, too, is, like, they love to claim pieces of media that are so not theirs, you know? Probably the best example that they've been pushing for a while is Starship Troopers, and a lot of it is just this very strong desire to dumb down media that criticizes or talks about the tendencies of conservatism. For those who don't know, Paul Verhoeven is the creator of the Starship Troopers movie. He is a leftist and quite progressive. Like, he does, what are they called? Commentary tracks in his movies where he heavily elaborates on what he meant by that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a secret what he meant when he made this or that movie. He's done audio commentaries that play over the whole movie as he, like, elaborates on what he meant by that. So, like, there is an audio commentary for Starship Troopers, of course. So, if you couldn't already tell, he elaborates that it is, in fact, a satire and criticism of fascism and warmongering. Most notably, just warmongering in general, and the idea of a powerful government labeling its enemy a pest that is inhuman and undeserving of concern or care, that their existence is threatening to us and that we need to act before they can, or even that any act they take justifies any amount of act on our end, right? Like, the movie is meant to make you feel like, yeah, let's kill the bugs to a degree. Sure, you're supposed to have fun watching it, enjoy the bug killing, but it's also meant to make you think about the fact that, like, from an objective point of view, if you're looking at it from, not as a human, but as, like, an objective outsider watching this scenario, neither species has more right to exist than the other, right? Like, neither species has an argument for why it deserves to wipe out the other species and win, right? But we still root for the humans because we are humans. We're biased in their favor. And then we see all the little corny, like, propaganda bits they do where they actively give us information that's not true, and we know it's not true because we see it not being true in the battle scenes that are not, like, controlled by the propaganda of the Federation. And you go on Twitter and you see these, same with Helldivers, yeah. And you go on Twitter and you see that these conservatives, they cannot allow the conversation to get too complex about the movie. They'll post a video of, like, Rico blowing up the bombardier beetle with a grenade through, like, the hole in its carapace or through its shell, and they'll say, I'm gonna be honest, if you think the bugs are the good guys, you're cooked. And then they'll post, like, a bunch of memes about, like, killing the bug sympathizers, right? Which are really just, like, their way of just saying, like, you should die in the comments in response to people who are trying to point out what the movies are about. And then meanwhile, you've got the creator of the movies in audio commentary confirming this point. They have a very strong attachment to claiming media, dumbing down conversations around it, and controlling the conversation. And it helps them that a lot of this stuff is popular media with young men, and they kind of control a lot of the conversation around it. Even if it means that the conversation around that piece of media is antithetical to the beliefs and ideas of its creator. Anyway, very good video from what I've seen by We Gon Be Alright. I'll go ahead and post a link to it in the chat and in the description, so if you guys want to go see the original video and leave some support, be sure to do so. It would be very nice of you if you did that. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this segment, if you found it enjoyable, educational, or entertaining in any way, then please consider leaving a like and a comment. Every single thumbs up and comment goes a long way to boost the channel in the algorithm, and of course, you can also support me by subscribing and ring the bell icon to, make sure YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos. Don't forget to also follow my social medias linked down below, especially my fan Discord, where I'll be hosting a watch party in just a few moments. But I also host movie nights, watch parties, call-in streams, gaming events, all sorts of stuff every week, so hopefully you guys don't miss out and you join my Discord. It is the hub of my fan base, so you don't want to stay away. Finally, If you want to support me directly, financially, you can help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here on the Xander Hall studio by donating, subscribing, gifting a sub, or supporting me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, StreamElements, Patreon, or buying some custom Xander Hall merch through the Streamlabs link in the description. Regardless of how you support me, though, thank you so much for watching, as always, and have a good one.